I am the moderator for today, so please excuse me. Please give me some time to change the background first. Sorry. Is everyone here already? Right, I'll start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to the honorable lecturers, adjudicators, debaters from the government and opposition side, and not to forget the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th Annual Interbatch Debate Championship organized by the Diplomatic Exco of Medical Student Association, MESTA. On behalf of the organizing committee, we are pleased to welcome you. Before we start our debate championship today, please kindly mute your speaker throughout the debate unless you are giving your speech or point of information, POI. Only the moderator and participating teams are allowed to turn on their camera throughout the debate. The juries are welcome to turn on their cameras after the debate has finished to comment on the debate by the participating teams. Welcome to the first preliminary round of Interbatch Debate Championship. I am Putrino Amira Mazida binti Mama Alif Istani, the chairperson, and Ahmad Iqbal Hakimi bin Sulaiman, the timekeeper for today. We are very delighted to announce for today, which is this house believes that medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman. I would like to introduce the debaters for today. On my right side, taking the role as the government team is the team from Year 2, which is Saturn, with Mr. Muhammad Hanif Taqiyuddin bin Muhammad Hisham as the first speaker, Ms. Norain Soleha bin Muhammad Nasri as the second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Ahmadina bin Safu Bahri as the third speaker, and Ms. Nurhana Khalillah bin Muhammad Fazi as the reserve speaker. On my left side, taking the role as the opposition team is the team from Year 1, which is Uranus, with Mr. Fatur Rahman Haziq bin Sahih as the first speaker, Mr. Muhammad Amir Haziq bin Johari as the second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Adib Luqman bin Khairul Azman as the third speaker, and Mr. Amir Ashraf as the reserve speaker. There are 3 adjudicators who will adjudicate this competition. The first jury is Dr. Nora Juliana, the second jury is Dr. Wan Nur Iza, and the third jury is Dr. Huzaini. Now, I would like to state the rules and regulations for today's debate. The time allocated for the first speaker of the government team is 7 minutes. The timekeeper will ring the bell once as the first minute, which signals that point of information, POI, are allowed to be given from the opposing team. The bell will be ringing again at the 6 minutes to signal the end of chances for POI to be given. The timekeeper will ring the bell twice at the end of the 7 minutes, indicating that the time is up for the speaker, and the speaker should do his or her closing speech immediately. Any POI given before the first or after the 6th minute should be ignored. Please do keep in mind that an extra 1 minute is given for the speaker if the speaker has a poor internet connection during this speech, which the timekeeper will take into account the extra time. For the rest of speaker, the time allocated for them to deliver their speech is 6 minutes. The bell will be ringing once as the first and the 5th minute to signal the durations for POI can only be delivered. Any POI given before the first or after the 5th minute should be ignored. The timekeeper will ring the bell twice At the end of the 6 minutes to indicate the end of the time for the speakers to deliver their speech, and they should do the closing speech immediately. The speaker will be penalized if the time taken exceeded the allocated time. Again, an extra 1 minute is given for the speaker if the speaker has a poor internet connection during the speech, which the timekeeper will take into account the extra time. Next, I'll briefly declare the rules of the debaters. The first speaker of the government and opposition team need to define the motion and state their stand, as well as introducing an idea or more to support or against the motions. The first speaker from the opposition also need to rebut the idea given by the first speaker of the government team. The second speaker from the government and opposition team need to convey 2 or more ideas to support or oppose to this motion. In addition, the second speaker of the government team need to rebut the idea given by the first speaker of the opposition, while the second speaker of the opposition team need to rebut the ideas given by the second speakers of the government team. The third speaker need not to introduce new ideas and need to rebut all the ideas given by the first, second, and third speaker of the other team. For the reply speech, the time allocated to prepare is 2 minutes, whereas to present the reply speech is 3 minutes. The first and second speaker of the opposition team should present his or her reply speech first, followed by the first or second speaker from the government team. The speakers cannot introduce new ideas and will need to summarize their arguments and reaffirm their stand regarding to this motion. The third speaker are not allowed to present the reply speech. The timekeeper will ring the bell once at the second minute as a last-minute warning and will ring the bell twice to signal the end of the debate. Are the participants clear of the rules and regulations? Okay. As the rules and regulations are fully understood, I would like to call upon the first speaker of the government team, Mr. Muhammad Hanif Taqiyuddin, to deliver his speech.
James Hume once said, "The art of communication is the language of leadership." Assalamualaikum and good evening. I bid to the speaker, honorable judges, trustworthy timekeeper, and not to forget, ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor. The topic for our debate today is this house believes that medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman. And we from government strongly agree with this proposal. We from the government believes that medical students are not being prepared well enough, and we from government will enlighten the house on why we agree with this motion. So ladies and gentlemen, stay with us from the government side. Before we go further, I would like to introduce the government lineups. Tonight, as the first speaker of the government, I will be talking to you about theoretical-based education or curricular system and how it affects the medical student. Next, the government will be followed by our second speaker that will be discussing another 2 concrete reasons that why we believe medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman that involves interpersonal skills such as time management and stress management. Lastly, from the government, we have our third speaker that will rebut and sum up the case on why the opposition should agree with this proposal and be with the government for a brighter future for the sake of Malaysia healthcare system. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start this discussion with the definition of the motion, as the motion for today is this house believes that medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman. And the key point here is not being prepared well enough, and we from the government define it as for the student not being prepared in terms of interpersonal skills that correlates with our current education or curricular system. Members of the floor, so now I will proceed with my first point that will enlighten the house of why we believe that medical student is not prepared well enough, which is theoretical based education system. As we all know, Malaysian education system is well known with its result-oriented system that dominantly cover in theoretical knowledge instead of practical knowledge. And I believe that most of us already know it. Ladies and gentlemen, as additional to it, I believe all of us have learned about civics ethics and professionalism as it already in our curriculum system. And for us as a medical student, we have PPD and EMJ that emphasize in professionalism and personal development that focusing more to interpersonal skills for medical students. But sadly, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that there are still medical students that undergo this type of curriculum and they are still did not practice what they have learned in the classes. So ladies and gentlemen, I have the question to the opposition side. Is this kind of medical student that you thought are well prepared enough to enter the healthcare system? If this is type of student, I would strongly disagree, ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of our beloved country healthcare system. Sorry, not accepting. Members of the floor, the way we see it from the government side, knowledge we get is more important than from where we get the knowledge. You can easily find examples of people who went or didn't went to school, but rather they went on to have a very great success. Theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, they are like two sides of the coin. Both of them are equally important. It is necessary to understand both of the ends of the spectrum. It takes hours to acquire the art of practicing techniques, putting in the time to understand how this technique fits into a larger context and how they work, as this is a very important for medical student as we learn the theory part of medicine during preclinical years, and practical of this knowledge will only come at the further stage during clinical years. Due to this argument, ladies and gentlemen, we bring into this discussion, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important for us to have an education or curricular system that not only emphasizing on the theory part, but also focus on practical part of learning to improve student interpersonal skills that my second speaker will explain more in her speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this house need to have a clear solution to this issue. So we from the government suggest to increase group-based assessment as a part assessment plan. The main reason why we suggest this is because it's very important to push the student from only studying and not emphasizing on the importance of interpersonal skills, but also skill-wise like skill in communication, self-presentation, and also stress management. Therefore, it is clear that medical student is not well prepared, as the education system itself is one of the major contributing factor for the medical student is not well prepared to face the work life as a houseman. Therefore, before I end my speech tonight, I would like to recap my solid point tonight, which is theoretical-based education system leads to medical students not being well prepared to face work life as a houseman. Sorry? The reason is very simple. How can you expect the students to be prepared to face a reality working in the medical line when the curriculum itself is still focusing on the academic and results, whereas the work environment requires you to have a very good interpersonal skills. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, we from the government already proved that medical student is not well prepared to face housemanship. As Albert Hubbard once said, the best preparation for tomorrow is doing the best today. And it's clear that we from the government are doing our best for the sake of our beloved country healthcare system quality. We government working and hoping for a brighter future. I rest my case. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, the first speaker of the government team. Now, I would like to call upon the first speaker of the opposition team to deliver his speech.
Good evening to Madam Speaker and judges, and also ladies and gentlemen. Today, the topic is medical students are not well prepared in working life as housemen. We disagree with the definition given by the opposition, as well prepared is defined that the medical student have the skill set to become the competent doctor with confident knowledge, resilient, and also brave to become a good doctor. Also, however, we, the negative team, believe this statement is false. Today, as the first speaker of the opposing team, I will be talking to you about who is responsible preparing medical student to become a good houseman and eventually a good doctor. Okay, as the first speaker of the government team said that they try to make you believe that theoretical lesson and interpersonal skill is not enough to become a good houseman during their housemanship. And this is very wrong because we think medical students are well prepared as they are going through 4 to 5 years of studies and training to become a competent houseman and eventually a good doctor. Most of his point is during the pre-clinical years and not during the clinical years where they will be having a posting and eventually attending patient. So today I will be discussing about who is responsible preparing medical student. In our side, we think the most responsible entity is the university itself because university need to provide adequate resources, facilities, and accommodation to the student. Uh, in the reason is they need to provide syllabus and actual suitable lecturers that are specialized in the field to teach them. To reach the level of skill that qualify them to be a good doctor, universities need to provide such as a good syllabus like what he said, PPD, personal and professional development, also medicine, public health. But the evidence is before our eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Our own UITM, for example, have hospital UITM. Yes, sorry. Uh, Hospital UITM as a teaching hospital, and it will provide the medical student to become to experience themselves the actual setting of the real situation in the hospital. And our very campus Sungai Buloh having the clinical simulation center for students to get a hands-on using mannequin or role-playing with friends before they're attending the patient itself at hospital UITM. To conclude my point, university has provided enough resources and equipment for medical students to be well prepared for working life as a houseman, and most importantly, as a doctor, because we, as a doctor, need to be careful to save people's life, and they need to have the exposure in the medical field to be knowledgeable and resilient. Because medicine is not like a walk in the park that we can learn like a duck swim into the lake. Because it is take us hardship to become a really good doctor and perseverance to be competent. Thank you.
Thank you, the first speaker of the opposition team. Now, I would like to call upon the second speaker of the government team to deliver her speech.
Assalamualaikum, ladies, gentlemen, and to the juries. So, first of all, our first speaker has already introduced about the theoretical-based education curriculum system and how it affects the medical students. And as promised, I, as the second speaker, will tell you two concrete reasons why we believe that the medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as housemen. But before that, I would like to rebut something that the first speaker of Uranus has said. So, first, he has mentioned that we are given 4 to 5 years of learning medicine. But we don't have to think about 4 to 5 years. Anyone can learn medicine more than that, but still they cannot be the perfect doctor. Why is that? Can you answer my question? No matter how much time we are given to learn something, no matter if it's 4 to 5 or to 10 or to an infinite years, we are given a lot of books to read about medicine. Why can't anyone be a perfect doctor? It means that they cannot perfectly apply what they have learned. So, ladies and gentlemen, imagine that you are a patient and you are seeing a doctor. But the thing is, the doctor greets you like a robot. Not only that, but he also looks very tired, very messy, and treats you like a nuisance. What would you feel? If I was in that situation, I would get out of there and find myself a better doctor. Now you must be wondering, why am I giving such a random situation just now? It is because making a good first impression as a doctor in front of a patient is really important in establishing a doctor-patient relationship. If we can establish that good relationship, we can get the utmost cooperation from the patients so that we can give them the best service according to their problems and the proper treatment. But if we cannot take care of ourselves in the first place, no, then how can we accomplish that simple basic step? So, what is the problem, ladies and gentlemen? It is simple, everyone. All that the medical students lack is time management and stress management. So, on to my first point. Time management is an essential skill set for medical doctors that includes housemen. The importance of time management is not routinely emphasized in undergraduates or graduate medical education curricula, and this always results in development of poor time management practices early in their training. Imagine, as a medical student, or a first-year medical student really, if you can manage your time well from now with some proper guidance, you have time to improve your general appearance. Take your time to build up your proper looks, your quality of sleep, so that you can be more focused, more well presented when listening to the patient's complaints. And it's not impossible to conclude that our unreadiness, fatigue, and lack of focus due to the lack of sleep can affect our decision making when we bear the responsibility of a life later on when we work as a houseman. Therefore, it is crystal clear that improving time management practices may lead to decreased stress, increased productivity, and improved well-being for being a houseman. No. And then on to my second point, which is that the lack of stress management skills. Now, everyone, we as medical students knew better than anyone that med school is already a stressful experience, and not everyone can cope with stress. And we haven't started talking about how these stressed med students, will have to go through hellish hours of overwork, more than 80 hours, and small rest when working as a houseman later on. Therefore, as a government, we would like to make an alternative solution, which is that we should make more frequent periodical consultation in med school and make it compulsory. We already have a mentor assigned for each student. What we need is to make it compulsory for them to meet their mentors more frequently in a period of time. So, hear me out. For example, for each semester, we need to at least meet with our mentors twice, and they will assess us, right? So, as an upgrade, we should make it once a month instead and make it compulsory. By this way, it will unconsciously build a habit for the medical students to do a follow-up with their mentors frequently, so they do not have the habit of bringing their stress and personal problems into the academics. And this later on will bring this habit into their workplace. If we do not teach the students early on, this will be very troublesome when they work as a houseman later, because this will disrupt their mental state while clerking the patient itself, and that, as everyone knows already, can cost lives. So, in conclusion, the medical students are unprepared to face work life as a houseman, as the medical students lack of time management and stress management. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, the second speaker of the government team. Now, I would like to call upon the second speaker of the opposition team to deliver his speech.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, everyone, to the chairperson, to the government team, and to the audience watching us right now via YouTube. So today I'll be taking the role as the second speaker from the opposition team, and I'll be rebutting what second speaker from government team just said, and also emphasize what my first speaker just said. So first of all, before that, I just would like to mention that the first speaker from the government team actually failed to define the motion word by word. So we are just going to go off and use our own definition, as per mentioned by Fatur Rahman, by my first speaker before. And then going to the second speaker from the government team, she just mentioned just now before I started my my turn. She said that how would medical students clerk patients during their housemanship, and that is a big point to them apparently, as they think that not being able to clerk patients when you're a houseman is something that concludes that they're not prepared to be housemen in the future. But that's the reason why they become housemen in the first place. That's the reason why they will be able to communicate with their doctors, with their superiors, to actually work on their skills during their housemanship. And I would like to also support what my first speaker just said during the about the interpersonal skills during clinical years. I think that's a very great point, and because as what the first speaker just said from the opposition team, interpersonal skills are not well honed in our medical students during medical schools, but that is completely incorrect, because as we know, it's pretty basics to know that medical school consists of 2 years of preclinical and 3 years of clinical years. So interpersonal skills can be honed during that time. Other than that, the time management and the stress management that was mentioned by the second speaker of the government, the time management and the stress management is something that could be honed also during medical school. So I don't understand how you could say that after 5 years of med school, these medical students cannot be well prepared, because there are so many activities, there are so many clubs that they can get in, there are so many challenges that they will face even before becoming a houseman that will train them to manage their time well. Maybe not during their first or second year, for sure. I am not trying to deny that they won't be perfect, as what second speaker from the government said. Oh, there are no perfect doctors in the field. I understand that there are no perfect doctors, but they are doctors. Maybe they're not going to be perfect in 1 to 3 years, but after the medical school phase, they will hone their skills to try to be perfect. And now I would like to ask the government side. Why now? Why do you ask the question regarding the preparations of medical students now, especially during the epitome of technology right now? We have all the means needed necessary to prepare our students to be great doctors in the future. And as what the second speaker from the government team mentioned just now, there are no perfect doctors. But even before this question have risen, there are a lot of doctors that have been given way less amenities than us, that was able to save countless of lives nowadays. Also, what the second speaker just said about the messiness and the first impression of the doctors to the patients, that to me is pretty self-discriminatory towards the students. Some students might not be able to differentiate what's messy and whatnot, but I understand that during the medical school years, they will be able to learn just like what the first speaker mentioned. I think what the second speaker from the government team said about being messy, about no time management, about no stress management, that by itself is being contraindicated by what the first speaker from the government team said, which is all of the syllabus of PPD and all that. Also, I would like to also reiterate what my first speaker just said about the clinical simulation center hospital at our university. And I believe that not only our university have that kinds of amenities, but also other universities. Maybe the thing is, maybe the government team is looking at it at a more specific approach. They see that all universities, all medical universities, maybe some of them are not prepared. But the thing is, right now, we cannot just generalize every single medical student from every single school to not be prepared to become housemen in the future. Now, why I believe that our students they are prepared is because they have been exposed. They have been exposed to experiences from very experienced lecturers and doctors to the specific fields. We as we know it in UITM, we have all these lecturers from their respective teams that have been in the field for so long, and we were able to be blessed to have classes with them. And to me, those experiences during preclinical years itself could prepare us to not be culture shocked by what we will face during our housemanship later on. And the thing about what the second speaker said about the 4 to 5 years thing, it's pretty what I don't get about 4 to 5 years is that 4 to 5 years is a very long time. We all know that 4 to 5 years, 5 years, it will enter 6 years, 7 years if you have to repeat your year. And to me, we all know that the years that us medical students have to go through, they are one of the longest years in any university students courses. And how could you question that 6 to 5 to 7 years of medical school could not prepare our medical students to become housemen in the future? Because I believe that the minimum amount of years that our government have set for our medical student to learn medicine in university, it's perfect to let them be able to venture out to become housemen in the future. And even let's say it's not 5 to 7 years, they could there are so many more students, and there are so many more medical students in Malaysia that other than in public universities. Let's say if you venture out to become the ones that pursue medical education overseas, they will go through very lengthy, even much longer time than us in Malaysia. So let's say I'll give you an example.
Second speaker. The time for you is finished. Time for you is up. Sorry.
Thank you.
Can you? Okay. Now I would like to call upon the third speaker of the government team to deliver his speech.
Assalamualaikum. Mic test. Can you guys hear me? All right. Okay. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening. Happy to everyone. So tonight we're joined today by this debate where the motion is this house believes that medical students are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman. So basically, I would like to invite everyone that is watching the stream right now to join the government side, where we will provide you evidence on why you should support us regarding that medical students, particularly in Malaysia, are not being prepared well enough to face work life as a houseman. So before I further fortify the points given by my previous first and second speaker, I would like to first rebut the points mentioned by the first and the second speaker of the opposition team. So the first speaker mentioned about why are they not mastering, yet they have not mastered the interpersonal skills when they have studied for more than 4 to 5 years, even to a certain extent 6 years. Because the answer is simple. It's about efficiency. You can even study for God knows how long. You can even study for 20 to 30 years and not become a good doctor. Why? Because it's about the system. It's about the upbringing. The system that shapes who you are that will become a good doctor. Yes.
I want to your team has gone over and over again on saying 4 to 5 years does not guarantee that we learn these interpersonal skills. But I want to ask you the same. How can you guarantee that your proposals will stick in the minds of these students and they will be applied in their medical careers.
Yeah, sure. Just let me finish first, Mary, but then I will explain to you on why you should support us. Okay. So basically, it's about the system. It's about efficiency. Why bother studying 4 to 5 years when you can eventually just utilize all these years and even make it shorter? As an example, the country India, who has the shortest medical course all over the world, they studied for only 4.5 years. So why do you need to push to the extent 5 to 6 or even 7 years studying in the university just for you to hone interpersonal skills? It just doesn't make any sense. It's about efficiency. We're talking about efficiency. Life is too short for you to become a student all the time, you know? Okay, so in all that, the first speaker also mentioned that we have enough resources such as a clinical simulation center. Here we can see in UiTM Sungai Buloh. Let me just say that simulation center, you're practically practicing on a mannequin, on a lifeless object, inanimate object. It's not the same when you go to the clinical setting where you will deal with people who have lives, who have souls, who have emotions, who are dealing with pain. It's different. It's the way you bring yourself to that patient and ask, Miss, Madam, how are you feeling today? It's about the simplest details that matters the most. It's not the same. Okay, so moving on to the second speaker, you mentioned that our first speaker failed to define the motion word by word. I think my first speaker defined it pretty clear now. Like you mentioned about not prepared in terms of interpersonal skills. Well, I don't know, what you don't understand about interpersonal skills. Basically, interpersonal skill is basically a broad spectrum. It can bring a lot. It can bring time management, stress management, as mentioned by my second speaker. If I were to define the motion word by word, I can go all week defining the motion. Okay. So he also mentioned that interpersonal skill can be on with this 4 to 5 years. Well, let me ask you this. Why is there still issues about doctors being poor in communicating with their patients? And I would like to cite an article written by Samia Yasmin Abdul Kadir. At the end, since 2019, 20% of the medical students who graduate and become housemen to practice medicine lack minimum entry qualification, and news on the poor quality of medical graduate is not uncommon in the mainstream media of Malaysia. So basically, having an excess influx of housemen is bad enough, but also having an excess amount of poor doctors is also not a good idea too. You know what I mean? So again, why bother spending 4, 5, 6 years studying just for you to hone your interpersonal skills? So that's why it's mentioned by my first speaker. The mechanism that we would like to propose today is the continuous assessment, where we will provide assessment regarding to group presentation in the way how you communicate with your teammates and how you present, how you use your words, how you use your body language, because all of this, the smallest, simplest detail is very, very crucial in maintaining communication with your patient. How are you going to extract information for history taking from your patient if you're not doing all of this? Just imagine you're a patient going into the room and the doctor just said, okay, miss, how are you feeling today? Of course, you won't want to explain about your problems, right? So that's why I believe that continuous assessment is the key mechanism on how we are going to deal with the inefficiency that the Malaysian healthcare system right now is proposing. So with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, the third speaker of the government team. Now, I would like to call upon the third speaker of the opposition team to deliver his speech.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adib from Team Uranus, opposition to this motion, and I am proudly oppose. Now, the third speaker of the government has said something that has effectively punched the nail into their coffin. Okay. And I would like to point out this one thing he said. He said that the third speaker of the government has said that they want all about efficiency, and they want short, and they exalt shorter medical courses, and they ask, why lengthen this to 6 and 7 years? Outside opposition wholeheartedly agrees. Why should we introduce these mechanisms that you so proudly propose to us for the sake of something that may not be guaranteed? I have tried to ask you, all three speakers of the government, how can you guarantee that these proposals that you have so excitedly bring up be stuck in the minds of students? Because here's the thing, what we as opposition have been trying to say to you all this time is that the 4 to 5 years we have in our medical course is enough. It has everything. My first speaker has already said that my first and second speaker for that matter has already said that there are activities, there are courses within our medical course that can facilitate the development of these interpersonal skills that we all want to have in our doctors. Now, I would like to point out certain things that they have said, particularly on the third speaker of government. First of all, he would say that these lifeless objects that are present in the facilities of our universities do not replicate real patients, as they don't have feelings, as they can't insult you, they can't do anything to harm you. But in the real world, patients can harm you, patients will put you down, and there are certain hardship that comes with it. And he points out that even with all of these training, there are still some bad doctors. Now, first of all, I would like to say that, of course, that lifeless objects do not equal real patients. It's called a simulation. These objects aren't meant to insult you. They're not meant to replicate real patients. What they're meant to do is for you to practice certain medical procedures so that you can apply them onto a real patient. And yes, these medical students are probably not going to be prepared for the things that these patients will probably say to them, or maybe these patients are a bit non-compliant. But that's the reason why housemanship exists in the first place. My second speaker has already said to you that the houseman program is doctor in training. You're training as a doctor so that when you actually become a full medical officer, these skills have been incorporated into your style, and you will treat patients accordingly. And I understand that there are still bad doctors out there, even with all of these training, even with all of these procedures and whatnot. But guess what? That this will also happen under the side of government. And I would say it will happen worse under the side of government, because what they would do is they would take all of these medical students, look down on them, assume that these students, they lack interpersonal skills. These students, they lack time management and stress management. I say that what we should do, and what my second speaker has done, is we trust these students. We trust these medical students in their abilities, in their judgments, so that our trust can be turned into their confidence. And with their confidence comes the attributes of a great doctor, who's not only knowledgeable, as my first speaker has pointed out, is knowledgeable in the field of medicine, but is also confident in applying them. Now, let me summarize what my team has said to you. Before that, let me summarize what my team has said to you. We strongly believe that university has already provided the necessary means of tutoring these medical students to become great medical students, which would then become great housemen, which would then become great doctors. And and we have told you, I've told you why, that with this training, with this program, that not only that we have already said to you, not only would these proposals by the government would be detrimental to the current situations, we also have proved to you that why our current system is sufficient. And with that, I proudly oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, the third speaker of the opposition team. As the debate is reaching its end, I would like to allocate 2 minutes for the first and second speaker from both teams to prepare their reply speech.
So I'm back again as the second speaker from the opposition team.
The first or second speaker from the opposition team, please present your reply speech. Sorry.
I am so sorry. I just I got up from my screen. Thank you to the chairperson. So I am back again as the second speaker from the opposition team to give the reply speech. So as we know it, I would like to just first mention that everything that's been mentioned by our first speaker, by me, myself, and by the third speaker, all of his rebuttals, I completely agree with them, and that is to oppose the motion, which is the medical students are not prepared to become housemen in the future, because we truly believe that they're prepared with the duration of time that was given to them to study, with the separation between preclinical and clinical years that have gave them the opportunity to learn all the interpersonal skills that have been mentioned by both the first speaker and the second speaker of the government team. I would like to also point out how it is pretty ignorant of the first speaker of the government team to just assume that medical course has to only focus on the theoretical approach as what he had mentioned just before. And other than that, I would also like to ask you, how are you so sure that every single medical student, not every single medical student, but a lot of medical students are not prepared, because like all of what have been said by the third speaker of the government team, I would like to point out the mannequins and the no real life bodies, the no cadavers in universities. That is an assumption that is quite it is incorrect, honestly, because like we are not sure how all universities build their syllabus. It might be different for us, and even so, like us, we have been exposed to exposure to real life cadavers. So how could that not prepare us to deal with real patients in the future? And also, what was mentioned, what was mentioned by the third speaker, the second speaker of the government, the 4 to 5 years, and she really wanted to shorten the time for us medical students, because she thought that 4 to 5 years is more than enough. But how are you so sure that how are you so sure that shortening the time will make it the otherwise the will be enough for students to be prepared? Maybe to conclude, I just want to again support every single point that has been given by the assistant team, and to that, thank you.
Thank you. Now the government team.
Assalamualaikum and good evening. We meet again as a last word from the government side. And just to summarize, the three main points, the three important points that the opposition failed to hear clearly from the government. The first point, theoretical-based education system. We can clearly see that there are many issues regarding medical students entering housemanship and cannot perform well, as it shows that they are not being prepared well enough. Why? Is it because of lack of knowledge? No. It's because the medical student do not have interpersonal skills that is required in the working environment. So we from the government suggesting that we should increase the group-based assessment as a part of assessment plan. The main reason is very simple. Why we should suggest this is because this is very important to push the student from only studying and not emphasizing on the importance of interpersonal skills as a way to create a well-prepared student, not only academic, but also skills-wise, like skill in communication, self-presentation, and also stress management, as mentioned by my second speaker, and I already mentioned in my speech before. The second point, time management skills. As we can see, there are many issues or cases medical students entering housemanship and they quit. And all the reason is because of interpersonal issues like not enough time, too tired, and low work-life balance. So is this because of academic issues mentioned by opposition? No, it is because interpersonal issues. So it's clearly that opposition is running out of the topic, not into the discussion. So it's clearly no, because this involves interpersonal skills of the medical student themselves. The question now, are you going to entrust your life with the people who don't even care about their time? So this is a question to all the ladies and gentlemen. The third and the last point, stress management. This is a very well-known topic because a lot of the cases involve medical students entering housemanship and they cannot cope with the stress in the working environment. So ladies and gentlemen, it's clear that the issue of preparedness for medical students is involving stress management, but not being mentioned by the opposition. So it's clear, members of the floor, the issue for medical students not prepared is clearly based on lack of interpersonal skills, and now we can see how ignorant the opposition try to stand for the medical student while they clearly based on the assumption and only focusing on the academic part, which is typically which is a typical mentality. Thus, it's clear that the 3 points from the government is already concrete to show that student is not well prepared to enter housemanship due to our 3 points, theoretical-based education system, and the lack of interpersonal skills, which is time and stress management. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about academic qualification, but it's the personal bringing of the medical student itself. As Albert Hubbard once said, the best preparation for tomorrow is doing the best today. With then, I, from the government, rest my case, and we are working and hoping for the better future. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for all the debaters. Now, we will give some time for our adjudicators to carefully give marks and discuss who is the winner of today's debate, as well as deciding the best speaker. The juries will now enter the breakout room to have a moment among themselves. Oh, sorry for the doctors. For breakout room, our educators are work on it. Sorry, doctor. Sekejap, eh.
Oh my God. To right.
Okay, so since all the others are coming in, so now we would like to ask the juries to comment on the debate that had happened today. We start with Dr. Nora Juliana. Can you comment on the debate that had happened today, Doctor?
Assalamualaikum. Well done. Both teams have shown very good points and well prepared. Okay, but just wait for the results afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. How about Dr. Wan Nur Izzat?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mas. I enjoy you being MC today. Okay. All right. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. First of all, congratulations to MESTA, the organizing committee, for organizing.
Is it just me or she got disconnected?
She got disconnected.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, Doctor muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Sorry. Okay. I thought someone removed me just now. Okay. Okay. So congratulations to the organizing committee for organizing an annual event. Okay. Successfully, inshallah. Okay. And thank you for inviting me again as one of the judges. So last year I also got the same group with Hanif, Soleha, and Ammar. So I remember my comments to last year, and I think you make some improvements this year. However, I think everyone follows the rules and everyone's eloquent, fluent, and congratulations to both teams. Despite your busy schedule, you managed to prepare all the things that you need or the points. Okay. However, I feel like how to say, I like when you give your supporting, like when you mention your points, you support with something. So I like that I can see from the government team. Okay, but in terms of points, I feel like I'm giving you. I'm showing that I'm biased to which group now, and but for the opposition team, I can see that they have their points there, although they don't support with like you don't quote someone else. Okay, you don't quote maybe specialists or experts or anything, but you have the points there. You have a strong points there. Okay, but I like the way the government when they mention their points, they support with maybe they have their reference. Okay, perhaps the opposition team, if for the next session of the next round, maybe when you give your points, you support with any reference. Okay, it will be good. So it's more strong. Okay, how you present your point. Okay, so that's all from me. Congratulations to both teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. So, so the last one, Doctor. How about Dr. Huzain?
Thank you, Mas. Assalamualaikum. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, let me just say I enjoyed the debate very much. I thought both teams came well prepared. You did your homeworks on this. So problem-based learning worked. So you are applying the problem-based learning principle kat sini. I just thought that since even though both were very enthusiastic with presenting their points, I thought if I can go back to the actual motion ni is the statement is negative. So it's a bit when I was following the debate, I had to constantly remind myself who is supporting the motion and who is not, and what the actual motion is, because the motion is actually not being prepared well enough. So it's a negative statement, okay? So I think, bringing it forward to the next year, if we can have a positive statement for the motion, then it's clearer to follow who is actually supporting something positive and not whoever is, opposing that point. Apart from that, I really like the government side for saying that you are not being prepared well enough, and I like your suggestions, a few suggestions that you've put in. So bear in mind, I will try to put this into good use. Okay, or your suggestions. Okay, so now who I'm biased against on lah. So I'm supporting which team. Okay, all right. Okay, best of luck both teams. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaimi. Okay, so now the results are in my hands, not actually in my hands, on my phone. So the winner of this debate today is from Uranus team. Congratulations to the winning team.
Yeah. More exciting listening to your debate compared to listening to Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. Okay.
Alamak. It's
Congrats,
like
everyone.
already tunjuk the best speaker kan. Alamak. So the best speaker chosen by the juries is Muhammad Adib Luman bin Khairul Azman from the Uranus team.
Congratulations,
Adib. Okay. So before we end this round, let's all have a photography session, including the juries and the participant. Okay, so everyone please turn on your camera. Okay, I count. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your cooperation. So finally, it is the end of today's round. Thank you all for the amazing debate today, and thank you to the juries who are willing to spend their time this evening. I hope you all have a great evening ahead, and you may leave this Microsoft Teams meeting. Thank you, everyone. Good job.
Thank you. Congratulations to the winning team. Both
Thank
teams,
you, guys.
congratulations.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Congrats, both.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Congrats, everyone.